Hello everybody, my name is Lee Mackenzie. I'm a teacher, trainer, director of studies and CELT tutor, and welcome to my video. I've customized this PowerPoint, so I'm not using any specific format except my own. I hope you like it. Before we start, I should also thank Cambridge English, as I'm referring to them and criteria developed by them throughout this video. Okay, so let's get cracking. This is about testing speaking. The first question: what makes someone a good speaker? You can pause the video and think about this for a few seconds. So let's compare our ideas. A good speaker knows when to interrupt, and I'm sure it annoys you when somebody interrupts you at the wrong time in conversation, as often happens in Spanish. In English, however, we tend to wait until there is a slight pause in the conversation, unless we're having some kind of heated discussion. We can keep the conversation going. If somebody were telling me a story and I didn't nod, I didn't occasionally back channel or say, "Oh, interesting, that's a good point," or yeah, then the speaker would perhaps think I wasn't interested and may not want to continue his story. We can repair communication. For example, asking for clarification, we may say, "What do you mean?" We may rephrase what we have said, for example, by saying, "What I mean is," or "What I'm trying to say is." We may summarize another speaker's argument by saying, for example, "So what you're saying is." We make relevant contributions. So for example, somebody called me today to try to sell me double glazing. I said I'm not interested, and he said, "Okay, thank you for your time." And I said, "May the force be with you." No, obviously I didn't say that, but if I had, it would have been inappropriate. However, if I was going to a fancy dress party with a Star Wars theme, it may be appropriate for me to say, "May the force be with you," when I leave the party. So relevance depends on context and participants. We don't hesitate too much. I'm sure you've noticed that I've hesitated a few times. That's normal. But undue hesitation obviously can lead to a communication breakdown. We link our ideas and utterances, for example, by referring back or referring forward to what I'm going to say in a moment. Linking, however, nevertheless. So there's also lexical cohesion, which may involve repeating words that we've used previously or using synonyms from the same lexical field. Linking ideas and utterances to those of other speakers. I'm sure you've noticed that if there is an abrupt change in conversation, it can lead to a breakdown in communication as well. And it's usually expected that people continue to talk about the same themes. We can produce long turns when required. By long turns, I mean extended stretches of discourse, speaking for a period of time. And of course, vocab and grammar is important, as is good pronunciation. For example, a German student of mine said to me, "I'm an impotent person," which I was quite shocked that he would admit that to his teacher. And I wasn't entirely sure if I should ask him what he meant. So I wrote it on the board, and he said, "No, not impotent, impotent. What he meant to say was important." So even the stress of a word can, again, lead to a breakdown in communication. So here's a task for you. Based on the above, what would be suitable criteria for testing a learner's speaking ability? I'll pause the video and you can think about that for a few seconds. Now, there are different ways to categorize these areas, but it's generally accepted that more than 5 categories makes it difficult and cognitively challenging for the assessor to grade and to pay attention to what he or she is grading. So Cambridge broke this down into 4 categories, which are as follows. Now, these come from initially from a seminal paper written by Canal and Swain on communicative competence way back in 1980. And communicative competence can be broken down in different ways, as they discuss. And they propose 3 categories, or 3 different types of competence. The first of which is grammatical competence. This, for them, encapsulates grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. As you can see here, though, Cambridge English created 2 separate categories for grammar and vocabulary and for pronunciation. Sociolinguistic competence is another category that Canal and Swain identify. By this they mean appropriate rules, appropriate use of grammar rules, and stringing together of utterances, discourse, cohesion, coherence. And this roughly equates to the category here, discourse management. And the third type of competence outlined by Canal and Swain is strategic competence, which they identify as communication strategies for breakdowns in communication, flow holding strategies, turn-taking strategies, asking for clarification, etc. And this roughly equates to the Cambridge English category here, interactive communication. So to consolidate those 4 categories and those ideas, try to match those 4 categories from the previous slide with the paragraphs below. You can pause the video and try to do this activity on your own. So any guesses for the first category, the first paragraph? Grammar and vocabulary. And the second one, any guesses? Discourse management. The third, pronunciation. And last but not least, interactive communication. Now, this is a marked criteria sheet which is used by Cambridge oral examiners. And as you can see, the 4 categories here, grammar and vocabulary, discourse management, pronunciation, and interactive communication, have different criteria below them. So if, for example, your speaker shows a good degree of control of a range of simple and some complex grammatical forms, then you would give them 5. If they show a good degree of control of simple grammatical forms, you would give them only a 1. Now these criteria are for B2, which is upper intermediate or first certificate, and the criteria change depending on the level. So at a lower level, you may get a 5 for showing a good degree of control of simple grammatical forms. Now, if you're not sure if it's a 5, but it's better than a 3, then you can give the learner a 4. So here's a question for you. If there are a maximum of 5 marks for each category, what would the total number of marks be? The answer is 20. And the minimum number of marks would be 0. So a student can score between 20 and 0 on a speaking activity according to these, according to the mark scheme here. So now you're going to use these criteria to try and assess 2 students. And to do this, you need to go to another video on YouTube, and using the criteria on the previous slide, try to give them each a grade in terms of grammar and vocabulary, discourse management, pronunciation, and interactive communication. This will take you at least 20 minutes, so you will have to pause this video and go and watch the other video. So I'll see you back here in 20 minutes. Okay, did you enjoy the video? I hope so. Now let's look at what Cambridge gives these speakers for their performance on the first certificate. And you can pause the video for a second and compare your grades with the grades given here. Okay, so it's not easy to test students' speaking ability, and it's important to bear in mind you are testing communicative competence holistically. This is integrative testing rather than discrete item testing. Discrete item testing would be breaking it down and testing using a gap fill to test their ability to use present perfect, or identifying the stress in a word to test their pronunciation. Here, however, we're testing everything all together. You've also got 4 categories to interpret and read while listening to your student perform, which is, again, cognitively quite challenging. So this will take practice and time to improve in your ability to do this. And it's important to bear the following things in mind. Your grading is to a certain extent subjective. Students who have more confidence and speak louder tend to get better marks. You should choose tasks that allow students to demonstrate the grammar and vocab you want to test. For example, if you're testing present perfect, you might show students 2 pictures, one in the past and one in the present, and ask them what's changed. Give them time to prepare. Bias for best. This might involve giving them the speaking task to look at for homework so they have time to prepare at home, or just giving them 30 seconds to prepare what they're going to say. And try to choose speaking tasks which do the following. In particular, they should involve 2 or 3 speakers so that you can test interactive communication. Obviously, one-on-one is not going to do that. Okay, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Here are some references for